What was your I'm dating married to a ducking idiot moment? We served in the US Peace Corps together in Uganda. One day, it was really sunny out, like we lived within 50 miles of the equator. Sunny, she says. The moon is going to be really bright tonight. I asked what she meant, and she said since it's so sunny, the moon is absorbing all the light and will illuminate brighter when it's dark. We argued about this and ended up talking to her mother on the phone. She confirmed her daughter's hypothesis. This one is a bit obscure, but when you go to a hotel to check in, you tell them your full name or at least your last name so they can look you up. The guy I was dating at the time and I had booked a hotel somewhere and we got there. They asked his name, he only gave them his first name, which is generic. What's your full name? Again gives them just his first name. Sir, we need your full name to look you up. Yeah, but the reservation is under my name. First name. Here I had to intervene and tell him they needed his last name because there could be many guests by his first name. I was so shocked this was not common sense to him. My partner was grunting and groaning at the bin. He said we need new bin bags. These ones you've bought don't bloody fit. Went over to see what was going on and he had a roll of small black dog poo bags in his hand with one unfurled, trying to work out why it wouldn't fit in the bin. There were bin bags. He just picked up the wrong roll and instead of realizing, tried to get a dog poo bag in a bin 50 times bigger. One day, my then fiancé was very angry with me without warning and started harassing me over what are you going to do? How are you going to pay for our wedding ? How basically accusing me of being broke or having no financial plan. After a whole day of me wondering what the heck is going on, she finally went through the numbers. According to this wedding magazine she borrowed from her friends, the average cost of a 200 guest wedding in Tokyo was $80,000 or so. And I did not have that kind of money, like, at all. And then I had to literally sit her down and use pen paper to prove how much our wedding is costing, since I insisted it won't be as much. How much is the venue ceremony rentals? $2,500. How much is the meal going to cost per guest at the hotel restaurant? $50.70. And how much are the hotel rooms we're paying for? $150 night. And how many people are attending the wedding? 13. All said and done, our whole wedding was going to be about $4,500. $5,000. And we knew this. But after reading one magazine article about mega weddings in Tokyo, my fiancée convinced herself that ours had to cost that much too. Spent nearly 2 days stewing and angry with me before even explaining this was the reason for her hostility. She was easily influenced like this by anything. Friends' comments, overhearing old ladies' conversations on the train, clickbait news online, etc. And no, I did not go through with the wedding. Took me a long time to admit that her stupidity wasn't a charm point, but weaponized incompetence by an abuser. My now ex-husband legitimately thought that having a hysterectomy meant that your vag was removed. I learned this when he asked me how women who had a hysterectomy were able to pee. Further discussion led to the realization that he thought that a hysterectomy resulted in a nice smooth Barbie-like bump down there. It just keeps getting worse the longer you read it. Girl I was dating was making nachos and shredding cheese. She cuts herself and blood gets on the cheese and the shredder. As she gets a band-aid, I pick up the cheese and as I am throwing it away, she freaks out as now I may have AIDS. Like what? She is hard freaking out that I just got exposed to AIDS and I needed to get medical attention. After talking, it turns out she thought AIDS was everywhere. Like any blood outside the body could just magically get it. Her stupidity was a relief that night. I was an exchange student in a country that doesn't teach critical thinking or problem solving. It's all memorization there. One day I was helping a fellow student with some homework from 6th ed class. She told me she couldn't figure out how to answer the question on how to prevent the spread of AIDS. I asked her if she had examples of how it's spread. She said yes, like sharing used needles with someone infected, having unprotected sex with someone infected, etc. Okay, so what do we say to those people then? Took her like 5 minutes, Had to walk her through some steps until the light bulb finally went off. Oh. Tell them not to do those things. Have protected six and don't share needles. I dated a guy in college who visited me in my rural hometown and asked what the animals in the neighbor's field were. I said cows, and a "you must be cheating me" level of disbelief. He proceeded to tell me they can't be cows because cows are black and white and these animals were all brown. I had to pull up Google to prove to him that brown cows existed. I could maybe understand if he'd been from a city, but he told me he was from a rural suburb, not a city, so I guess he was just an idiot. My boyfriend refused to eat basil I had bought from the grocery store because it was a full plant. I was keeping it outside and he insisted that he would not eat dirty food. I asked where he thought farmers kept produce and he said that they have special areas for food to grow that was sterilized, but my plant was not food grade. I just looked at him with a dumbfounded look. I didn't know how to respond. While we were moving, my ex-wife asked me who we needed to contact to change our email address, edit THX for the responses and upvotes. Promise this isn't a bad attempt at a joke. This really happened when we moved to a new house in the same region of our state. We both had been using Hotmail at the time, which made this funnier, to me at least. I have a family member that doesn't understand you don't need a new email address for every device. She has dozens of email addresses and Facebook accounts. Ex-wife complained Apple Pay wouldn't work, link or whatever. I suggested she contact Apple support or go down to the Apple store. Kept refusing to go to the store, saying she'd call customer support and go from there. One day while at work, she texts me asking where to get iTunes gift cards. Already a red flag. Why do you need those, I ask. She stated to me that Apple support is requesting the codes so they can verify funds. I told her it's a bad idea, it's a scam, and to just go to the Apple store. An argument broke out, and nothing was discussed further. I get home that night, and notice eight $100 iTunes gift card holders in the kitchen. I ask her if she sent the codes to anyone, in which another argument broke out. She said she posted in an Apple support thread and an anonymous user replied to her telling her to call this number, obviously an affiliated with Apple. Some say her Apple Pay still doesn't connect to this day. We were planning a trip, and I asked my partner to book the flights. Weeks later, I asked for the details, and they said, "Oh, I thought we could just buy tickets at the airport on the day we leave." Apparently, they thought airports were like bus stops. We ended up paying so much for last-minute tickets, I half expected a butler on the plane to greet us with caviar and a mortgage application. Lesson learned: trust, but always verify. I had a similar thing happen when I asked the friend I'd be traveling with to go buy bus tickets ahead of time. We were going to Nick from Baltimore for a long weekend, and I didn't want to have to wait in line that morning. I'd made all the other arrangements, and he drove past the station daily on his commute. It didn't seem like a gigantic ask. I got to his house the night before. No tickets. He helpfully mansplained that you don't have to buy in advance. Yeah, I ducking knew that. On top of which, he'd actually gone inside the station to find out. He was right there. I asked if he'd noticed the long lines. Yes. Had he noticed how slow they moved? Yes. Did he want to get up at the crack of dawn to wait in that line tomorrow? Well, tough sheet, it's our only option now. Woke up the next morning to learn he coincidentally forgot to set his alarm. It was already 3 hours later than needed, and he hadn't packed. I just called and cancelled the hotel. Duck it, we're not going. We ended up poking around Baltimore as tourists and having a great time. But when he tried to upgrade the relationship a couple years later, I declined. I never knew if he'd been playing Min James or was genuinely head up as with planning. Either way, I didn't need that crap. On a camping trip, she was worried about parking the car on the grass because she thought the grass was going to grow, puncturing and flattening the tires. It's literally called blades of grass, people. Protect your wheels. When he spent an hour arguing cows are from England and bulls are from Spain. Or when he told me he is British because he had mixed Egyptian and Irish heritage and I was English because I don't. Oh no, wait. When the dentist handed him that vacuum thing to spit into and he thought it was an oxygen mask and got it stuck to his face. Haha. Memories. A girl I was trying to date told me that Spain is part of Latin America, and when I informed her that it is in Europe, she doubled down by saying she was a Latin American studies student and that I was wrong. Dude, a few years ago I was talking to my grandma and she swore to me that we were from South America. I said, no grandma, you and I are Portuguese, that is in Europe. She got mad at me and left the conversation because she has thought her entire life that Portugal is in South America. She has always lived in California and that's where I grew up too. She always talks about her Portuguese heritage too, having no ducking clue where it is located. She was 85ish at the time, so she had no business not knowing. Edit, if it's not clear, I'm talking about ancestry. My college GF took me to her mega church. Though I was a bit uncomfortable, I was open-minded. I have no problem with someone being religious, but when the pastor went, when Satan comes to get you, you put your hand up and tell him, Satan, you can't take me because I tithe and give offerings to the church. The crowd erupted in cheers, and I instantly lost respect for all 3,000 of them, including my GF. We were living together when I get a call from my dad saying he is on his way to pick me up because he needs to have a talk with me and my sister. Boyfriend, jokingly, goes, probably gonna tell you he has cancer or something like that, and laughs. Turned out he was right. My dad told me and my sister that day that he just got diagnosed with cancer. I arrive back, still in shock, to my boyfriend and tell him that he was actually right. His reply? Ha. I was right, and laughs. Dumped him 8 years ago and never regretted it. Abusive ducker. Dad is fine today, BTW. Guy I dated, briefly, was not a US citizen. His debit card got flagged for a large purchase, and when the bank called and asked for his passport number to verify his identity, he ducking guessed. He had his passport in his pocket, and instead of looking at it, he just started rattling off wrong numbers. Obviously ended up getting his bank account frozen, and then he called the bank the next week and demanded that they deposit some money into his account to make up for the inconvenience they caused him. My wife recently realized she is colorblind through her eye doctor. She is an artist, and yes, her art is very beautiful, but the way she chose her colors has always been a bit strange. I now realize why. Anyway, when she found out, she was shocked. Afterward, as soon as we got home, she showed me her color palette that she used to paint, showing me the way she's seen colors. I kept trying to explain to her that I don't see colors like she does, so I don't know what she sees through her eyes, but she couldn't understand what I was talking about. 2 days later, she randomly came up to me and said, "Yeah, that makes sense." We had a clogged French drain outside. My husband thought a plunger would fix it. He dropped the handle in the drain trying to plunge it. If that wasn't bad enough, he tried to use a wrench to get the handle out of the hole and proceeded to drop the wrench in the hole as well. He then called a plumber and told him we need help getting a plunger handle and wrench out of the drain. He's a PhD in English literature. Needless to say, I am now the handyman. My ex, upset that our bedroom did not stay dark into the morning, once pounded a 4-inch bolt from our daughter's crib into the wall to hang a sheety blanket up over the window. In case it's not obvious, bolts have flat ends and are not made for hanging items on walls. The hole it created in the wall was more of a crater. And the disgusting blanket he purchased for the venture was ruined as well. I loaned my ex $65 to go pay his phone bill. I was going that way anyway, so I told him I would pay it for him along the way. He gave me back the $65 and I paid it at the T-Mobile store. Payday came and I asked him for the $65. He said he already paid me back. He got so mad and said I was a forgetful idiot and just kept asking yes or no, did he give me the money back? And I said yes, but I then paid the bill for you. His friends all agreed I'm an idiot and he never paid me back. That is moment I knew he was an idiot. My husband is incredibly smart, highly educated, a clever man. He also has eaten an entire muffin with the paper on 2. Eaten fishtail palm berries from our backyard just to see what they were. They are painful and not edible. 3. Bent the tip of my Wasthoff chef's knife trying to open a stubborn wine bottle. We have a corkscrew. 4. Traumatically shattered the bone in his fingertip while trying to open the double thick plexi housing on a baseball card with a table saw. My ex bought a brand new Mac computer and a set of DVD-ROMs to do photos. There was a clear plastic cover, the shape of a DVD but thinner. He decided to see if it would work as a DVD. When it wouldn't extract, he forced a regular DVD in beside it and got them both stuck. Had to take it back to the Apple store and get it fixed. This was the same man who tried to use my child's plastic thermos to hammer in a nail and punctured the thermos. Was a level of idiot that definitely factored into me breaking up with my first boyfriend. His parents were rich. For some reason we were talking about house prices. He said something dumb, so I asked him how much he think his parents' house cost. A $500,000 home. With 100% sincerity, he was like IDK, like 10-15k. There was definitely other problems, but I never forgot that moment, lol. When my GF said she was going with one of her model friends to Qatar or Dubai to dance around in bikinis on some super yacht for a New Year's party. The conditions were they had to hand over all their stuff for security reasons and the yacht was going to be traveling far offshore. When she told me, I was like, are you ducking kidding me? Have you never seen the movie Taken? Even her closest friends told her she was ducking stupid to risk this. My ex and I got into an argument because I saw an Alaskan license plate and made a comment that it must have been a long drive for them. He said that Alaska was an island and you couldn't drive to the east coast from it. He refused to accept me showing him a ducking globe and Google search that Alaska is simply attached to Canada and not next to Hawaii. My mother was the same. Your child gained so much by your leaving him. As a toddler I remember being so hungry scouring the house for food. Additionally, she would lock me in a hot car while going to stores and there was never any food or water around during the day. Breakfast was cereal. School lunch was half a sandwich and fruit roll-up. Dinner was box meal or Easy Mac, despite being middle class. She's also locked me out of the house on the hottest days of FL summer whilst she naps and watches TV. Mind you, I was about 7 and there was an unlocked gate at the end of the yard leading to a creek right behind it. Honestly surprised a moccasin, rattler, or a cluse never bit me. Could have drowned, I guess. My dad is only aware of the things she did after the divorce when I was 10, but I intend to tell him one day. Glad your kid escaped what may have been extreme neglect due to laziness. I went through his phone after 3 years together because I saw a weird message pop up on Insta on his old phone. It's safe to say that he's a lech. Well, a failed one, because 95% of his messages were ignored. I confronted him, threw the phone onto his lap and went back upstairs to calm down and think. Tell me why this fuckwit came up to me 10 minutes later telling me to go through it again after deleting the majority of the messages. Then followed about 30 minutes of arguing before he finally admitted to deleting them. My spouse is terrible for never respecting my knowledge on anything but taking anything a friend or even stranger at church might say. Everything from how mortgages work to how to raise our children. I don't know what I got so wrong over the years that made me an untrustworthy source. My ex used to do this. And then when I started to get frustrated with it, he'd act like I was being unreasonable and that it's good to get a second opinion on things. But when it was every topic, it started to feel like he didn't trust me to be correct ever. Happened last night and I'm still hissed. Drove up to a roundabout and were the first ones to arrive at the scene of a pretty rough car accident that just happened. It was between a cop car and a car with a couple of younger women. All airbags deployed. Girl's car was definitely totaled. We pulled up and the cop was rolling out of the driver's seat and I called 911 for an ambulance. The cop seemed okay and went to check on the younger girls who were screaming and were definitely hurt shocked. We heard sirens and other cop cars showed immediately, so the best thing we figured to do was get out of the way and go about our night. The idiot part is this: we get in our truck and I tell my boyfriend he has time to pull back into the now backed up roundabout. His response was, "Hold on, I'm making a Snapchat post," and I'm like, what the duck? We need to clear out of here before it gets too busy and so we're not in the way of the cops. Is now really the time? Then I see the post. It was a video of the accident, then the camera panning back to him smiling saying they're out here getting the police too. Now to clarify, we weren't at the accident site for long. So during the time I was checking on the cop and the girl was screaming in pain from her car and officer was trying to get her out, my boyfriend was recording that dumbass video. 1. I found that disgustingly insensitive at the very least. 2. I called him a little bitch for his first instinct to be pulling out his phone and record. We drove home in silence that night and I still don't know what to say to address that dumbass childish behavior.